Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? Kate Creative here, Kevin Townsend with Bamboo Solutions. Gonna be doing our weekly newsletter roundup today. Super pumped about the news, see what's going on. How you guys doing today? What's up with you on your Friday? I gotta turn some feedback in the mic. Hold up. There we go. Now I can hear myself in my headphones. That's good. Way better. Anyways, what's going down, guys? Got the newsletter up, ready to roll. If you guys don't know who we are, we're Bamboo Solutions, product and services company for Microsoft SharePoint stuff. Do it all pretty much around that space. So today is our little walkthrough on our newsletter. Every Friday we're putting one out. That way you get the latest and greatest news around the space and you can get kind of caught up, stay up to speed with all the stuff that's changing, right? There's just so much content out there. So here we go. We're going to roll it up for you. So if you want to register for that, you can do so. Actually, let me see here. I got to get a couple of windows open before we start this thing. Going to need this one. Going to need... what else? I'm going to throw the registration link up in chat so you can register for this newsletter if you're interested. So take a look today, see what you think if you're not on it already. But I will say it's a really good newsletter, good content, especially if you work around Office 365 or Azure or any of that Microsoft space, SharePoint kind of centric, then it's a good one for you. I know there's a couple of them out there for SharePoint content, but we're a little partial to this one, don't you think? So anyways, let's take a look at what we got going on today. I'm gonna go ahead and share the desktop. Let's take a look at the newsletter. So if you're not familiar, this is a MailChimp's newsletter, so you probably are on a couple of those already. So you're probably familiar with this format. I'm viewing it in the browser here. You've got the ability to view past issues, though, if you're interested in kind of catching up on last week's news or the week before or whatever, right? You've got a way to do that. But there are 3 sections to our newsletter. We've got our top news stories coming from our media outlets, those groups and organizations that make it a profession to spit news out, right? Then we got our around the blogosphere, and this is where our evangelists and our MVPs and our enthusiasts write about usually technical solutions or around solving issues or problems. And these blog posts are good tips for people that are in the space to be able to pull some samples and tutorials and explanations on how to do some stuff that you might come up against. And then we got our SharePoint events. So that's the 3 sections of the newsletter. We're going to jump right in here. Top news stories today: how to modernize your SharePoint Online homepage. Take a look. This is coming from CMS Wire. We've got, with all the buzz around modernizing your SharePoint Online sites, they say one thing has remained a little bit of a mystery: how to do it. So, nice pop-up there. Modern sites have not been available at the root of SharePoint Online until recently, which left everyone with a bit of a mix and match experience, for sure. The good news is Microsoft has finally provided multiple options to modernize those root sites. And especially that homepage, so you can quickly and easily transition no matter what scenario. So anyways, they're going to go into the options that we have here. So updating your SharePoint root site homepage, there are 4 scenarios they're saying. We're scenario 1. My SharePoint root site homepage is already a modern communication site. If that's already the case, then that's awesome. He says, lucky you. So if you've created your tenant after April 2019, then it's likely that that's the case for you. What else? Done if you're in scenario 1. Scenario 2, you've been in SharePoint Online for a while, so you have intranet content that resides in the root site, and you've deployed a classic homepage. Coming soon, this feature was delayed, though, based on early adopter feedback. We will update this blog when the feature becomes available. The roadmap estimates around Q3 of 2019. So you can now create communication site pages at the root of a site collection, classic site collection, by enabling a site feature. Currently, the root site can be converted only if the classic publishing feature was never turned on. That's a good little gotcha there. I did not know that. Only if classic publishing feature was never turned on. The step's only available by running PowerShell command. You've got this enable SPO com site. Ta-da. Scenario 3, your internet home is a modern communication site, but that site collection is not the root site. So if your internet home is a modern comm site, but that site collection is not the root site, so that means it's going to have like a /site/something then, if that's the case. Use the site swap command, yep, that allows you to swap the location of a source site with a target site. So in other words, if you have your modern internet homepage sitting at a /site/something, home, internet, whatever, you can now swap that site with some PowerShell to be the root site. So that's pretty cool. I remember reading about that a couple weeks ago. Scenario 4. This is all great, but I really want a new home site functionality. Is there anything I can do or should do now? So he says, go ahead and take one of or any of the above steps. It will not hurt your ability to implement home sites when they become available. What else do we have here? The folks at Microsoft tell us that home sites are like modern communication site templates with superpowers. The idea is this will act as the central hub for your entire organization, but with a focus on content that's relevant to you. Okay, so it's worth mentioning, he says that each of these steps come with some caveats. Make sure to check out the additional links provided in each section. What else? The important takeaways. Don't delete your root site collection ever. Enable comm site features on a classic root site collection to retain your content, but give it a new look and feel. Use the site swap feature to move a modern comm site to the root site. Go ahead and implement a modern communication site homepage now, and feel free to implement home sites when they become available. Sweet. So you're going to be able to use that home site functionality regardless of what your case is currently, it sounds like. I hope so. I have to check that out. Which will come out on top, Microsoft SharePoint or OneDrive? Not sure. On top of what? Let's see here. This is from Search Content Management. Okay. So, document collaboration and versioning are key functions in many workplaces, they say. Learn how Microsoft SharePoint and OneDrive work together to make that happen. So despite this is Rita? Hold up. Somebody at the door. Sorry about that. Dog loves to attack the door. He says, despite Microsoft's users shifting from SharePoint to OneDrive, SharePoint continues to run the show behind the scenes. Enterprise users seek convenient ways to store their business data so they can access it from anywhere and on any device. OneDrive offers these capabilities with the need for SharePoint. Okay, so OneDrive offers those capabilities without the need for SharePoint, but SharePoint delivers core services to support several OneDrive features. So he says, here are some OneDrive features that SharePoint supports: co-authoring, document versions, OneDrive for Business. OneDrive for Business always starts from a SharePoint document library and is then linked to a user's OneDrive account. OneDrive is still heavily dependent upon SharePoint, especially the workplace, where necessary features for businesses are only available through OneDrive. I'm really looking forward to a better experience around external sharing, and I guess some best practices around, or what is the future roadmap for extranets and that type of scenario, right? I hope that's something that's coming on, because I don't even know. But currently I know OneDrive is used a lot for sharing files externally, so that each user can sort of control what they're sharing. But I also have been in the habit of setting up what are like extranet sites in SharePoint Online to give organizations a place to share things centrally, the group. So anyways, I'm interested in that, where that's going to go as far as that path. So what Office 365 subscription is right for your small business? This is from On Microsoft here. Let's see here. For baseline operations and collaboration, Office 365 Business Essentials. So let's see here. Essentials is the cheapest 365 plan, if y'all didn't know, at the rate of $5 a user with an annual commitment of or $6 with a monthly commitment. The plan is all about collaboration experiences. So let's see, the plan includes Teams, Planner, OneDrive, Exchange, and more, but it might be good if your small business is just getting started and if you're primarily functioning online with workers across the world. First, a note though, they're saying for a small business that needs to keep in touch with employees, the free tier of Slack might be more enticing to avoid paying a subscription fee. However, we've explained why the Microsoft Teams service is better value for the money. True that. Agreed. Aside from Teams, Office 365 Essentials also includes access to Exchange, which with this plan, you can use your own custom domain name and get up to 50 gig mailboxes. It also ties into other services like OneDrive. Coming with access to OneDrive, you can share, you can share company files online, store and share company files online, back up your PCs, convert items to PDFs, and more. What Business Essentials doesn't include, though, for that $5 a month plan, if you pay annually, there's no access to the PC and desktop versions of the Office products, so you're just getting the cloud, web-based Office products. Which they're getting close. They're getting close to feature parity to the on the desktop style of Office product, but they're not quite there yet. I know a lot of the times we open up our corporately branded Word documents in the Word Online, and all kinds of formatting issues occur when we open it there. It could just be legacy formatting, though, you know. Just for the Office apps, Office 365 Business. This is the one that I probably have. Well, no, I take that back. I haven't sold a lot of the business suite. It usually ends up being an E3 plan across the board, just because people want all of the benefits and the features that come with E3s. So what if your small business doesn't need Teams, Planner, or any of the collaboration experiences included in 365? What if we're looking for the core functions of the Office apps instead? So you can go towards Office 365 Business. It's around $8.25 a user if you pay annually, or $10 a user for a month-to-month. A subscription gets your employees the Office apps at a cheap price. Significantly less doing it this way, as opposed to paying the $250 for an individual Office 2019 license per computer. And you always have the most up-to-date version if you do the subscription. So best of everything, they're talking business premium here. Looks like cost around that is going to be about $12.50 a user a month with an annual commitment, and $15 a user a month for a month-to-month. Yeah, you know, I like this plan. It does call it out. Blur the lines and try Microsoft 365 if you're looking for Windows licensing as well. You can actually do that. But I do prefer Office 365's licensing pages. I think it's on Office. Oh, this is going to show all my stuff. I don't want. Let's just go here. So here, I feel like this is a better representation of what the differences are between the plans. This is on Microsoft's site. You've never seen it before. But you got your small business options here. This is Pro Plus, E1, E3, and E5. So here we are on the Enterprise page. This is where most of the users that I've sold 365 to go, E3. And then if you're looking for like as VoIP services and all that, I think they end up moving you up to E5, and you can see the extra things that it may bring over in E3. But you pretty much get access to all the products, both desktop installs and cloud versions. So a good one there, SharePoint included. But yeah, you can just kind of navigate through this here and really kind of see in my opinion, better comparison of the features that come with them and such. So this is the home options, and then we've got a small business option here. It should show us our business essentials that we were just talking about, as well as the premium and then the business level. You can see here, you get Office here, you get Office here, but you don't get Office over here. But you do get, don't you get the online versions? Yeah, web and mobile versions. So there you go. What else we got going down? Microsoft 365 gains new features, including Presenter Coach, improved inking, and more. Improved inking. What is that? So for the web, has some new features to play with. They're just in time for back to school season. Office for the web has several new features that improve presenting content to others. Presenter Coach inking in PowerPoint for the web and 3D models will help users portray their ideas. And then many new features are available for preview for some platforms, but will roll out more broadly in the near future. All right. What is Presenter Coach? I don't think I've heard of that. It helps users improve the PowerPoint presentations on the web. Uses AI to help presenters improve their speaking by giving on-screen feedback in real time. Gives presenters feedback on pacing, language, and filler words. At the end of a presentation, Presenter Coach provides a report that helps users know where they can improve. That's pretty neat. I've never seen that. Let's see if I can turn this on real quick. No sound. New feature in Microsoft PowerPoint. How long is this? minute. Yeah, we can do that. Public speaking is nerve-wracking, for sure, for some, which is why having a coach is so important. All right, so getting started. That's interesting. I guess you got to give it a time limit so it knows how your pace looks against how much time you have. You're using a bunch of ums and ahs. It lets you know. Avoid reading the slides for sure. That's pretty neat. Some quick real-time AI there, interaction, right? PowerPoint for the web. Isn't this... Go back. I guess that is this web? No? Yeah, because it says open in PowerPoint there. Pretty cool, huh? I've never seen that before. I think that's pretty neat. That's probably a little bit of a sign of where they're... I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get away from having Office on our desktops, but sure does look like SharePoint, doing most of the feature and building of new features in SharePoint Online and then sort of porting that over to SharePoint on-prem versions. I'm assuming they're doing the same for Office now. Don't know that though. You can use 3D models, it says too, inside PowerPoint for the web to help illustrate presentations. No examples of that here, but what's this ink thing? New inking features to Office for the web. Users can now ink on PowerPoint for the web and annotate presentations in real time. PowerPoint on the web now supports ink replay. This feature allows users to have ink appear step by step to illustrate a point. Ink replay and annotating slideshows on PowerPoint on the web are available for Office insiders. Okay. That's pretty neat. So you got some new updates there for Office on the web. Cool stuff. I'm really interested in that presenter AI. That's pretty badass. Microsoft outlines plans to end basic authentication in Exchange Online next year. Jeez, I'm already 22 minutes past. Sorry, guys. We're going to have to speed this up. Let's see. So what's the announcement here? They upped the stakes in its effort to end basic authentication with Exchange Online email service. Plans to end support for basic authentication next year when used with various email protocols, according to a Friday announcement. Those protocols include Exchange ActiveSync, Post Office Protocol, the POP, and the IMAP protocols. So additionally, Microsoft will drop support for remote PowerShell when used with Exchange Online. It'll end on October 13th, 2020 for those email protocols, as well as for remote PowerShell used with Exchange Online. Got to be specific about that one. In addition, they're saying basic authentication and Exchange web services will end on that same October 13, 2020 date. Apparently that came out about a year ago, so here it comes. Switch to Modern Auth. So if you're using Exchange Online to switch, they want you to switch to a so-called Modern Authentication approach. Modern Authentication is based on the use of OAuth 2.0 tokens in the Active Directory Authentication Library, the ADAL, they call it. Notably adds support for multi-factor authentication. They're working on remedies to ease some basic authentication in pains. For instance, working on adding OAuth support to both POP and IMAP in the next few months, although using OAuth with these email protocols will require updating an email client apps, making investments to improve the multi-factor authentication module, etc., etc. Cool. Coming up, guys. Coming up. October, what was it, 13th, 2020? Microsoft releases first update to new Edge beta. Microsoft released the first beta channel update for the new Edge browser. It's based on Chromium 78. It's the first beta channel build that is based on Chromium 78, and it contains a number of fixes, improvements, and new features that we've been iterating on in the Dev and Canary channels. Okay. Got it. In this update, tracking prevention is enabled by default. Cool. You'll find some new sign-in and sync features and new favorites button, giving you quicker access to your favorites. So this is on the beta channel. Which one am I in right now? I'm on the dev channel. I was using Canary yesterday and it kept crashing on me. Like it just locked up all tabs and I had to shut down the whole thing. I think there was the tab recovery option, but still, it was kind of a pain in the butt, especially during the middle of a webinar. So don't use Canary in webinar. Don't be like Kev. Right? So anyways, we've got the beta one here, so they've just updated that one. Good news there. Okay, so what else? We've got Microsoft's new data dignity team could help users control their personal data. See what they're saying. They're staffing up a new data dignity team in its CTO's office, which could help users to control their own personal data, ultimately to the point of buying and selling it. Wow. The team is researching ways to give users more control of their personal data, possibly even one day enabling them to buy and sell it to third-party entities. That's crazy, right? I haven't really ever thought about that. Others are selling our data for us currently. We're not seeing any revenue from that, obviously. Or are we? We're getting free things because of our data, I'm sure. But interesting. A marketplace for people to sell their data, potentially. Huh. Microsoft's been increasingly been banging the privacy drum as a way it hopes to distinguish itself from Google, Facebook, and other tech companies which have run into legal and political problems because of their data gathering methods. But Microsoft's run afoul of privacy mavens. Let's see here. What else are they saying? What's Project Bali? They wanted to give users more control of their own data after he unearthed some information about the company's Project Bali earlier this year. Bali, a Microsoft research incubation project that seemingly was in private testing as of January. It's a new personal data bank which puts users in control of all data collected about them. The idea is to give users a way to store, visualize, manage, control, share, and monetize that data, according to the About page for the project. I gotta click on that now. Is that an actual product page? No. Another news article. Today, September 23rd, the New York Times is running an interactive feature about Jaron Lanier that is focused on data privacy. Lanier is a virtual reality pioneer and a chief scientist at Microsoft. His central arguments in the Times piece are that users have been tricked into giving away their most valuable assets, data, and that users should get paid for their personal data. He uses the term data dignity and in describing his plan for righting these wrongs. Okay, that's cool. I was just kind of skimming the article there just to see if there was any other big details. Didn't look like it, so but that's pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to ponder on that one, I guess, to give any opinion on it, but interesting. Microsoft phishing attack uses Google redirects to evade detection. A new phishing campaign uses Google search query redirects to send potential victims to a phishing landing page designed to collect Microsoft Office 365 credentials via encoded URLs. The phishers behind these attacks use URL encoding, also known as percent encoding. It's a technique that makes it possible to convert ASCII characters and URLs with percent signs followed by 2 hexadecimal digits. It allows threat actors to hide the phishing page URL from secure email gateways that scan emails for malicious links. The researchers at Cofense Phishing Defense Center who discovered this phishing campaign point out in a write-up that the easiest way to trick a secure email gateway is hiding the true destination of the payload. So the phishing email, they're saying, is simple and originates from a compromised email account of a relatively well-known American brand, informing recipients that they have a new invoice awaiting payment. The targets are being sent to the phishing page via a hyperlink using a URL build from 2 parts. The first is https://google.lv, and the second part is the encoded URL. When the user clicks on the View Invoice button at the bottom of the email, they'll be sent to a redirect notice Google page telling that they are being sent to the now decoded phishing domain and that they can return to the previous page if they don't want to proceed. This is enough to fool basic URL and domain checks. When they finally land on the page, the phishing page, they're saying that the target will see a cloned Microsoft Office 365 login page that will ask them to enter the account's email address and password. Crooks have used copyright infringement notices to bait Instagram users into giving away their credentials by asking them to urgently fill out a copyright objection form within 24 hours. Apparently that one's been working. They also used CAPTCHA here, they're saying, as to block email gateways automated URL analysis feature from research or reaching and analyzing the phishing landing page you use to harvest the credentials. Definitely going to be some more of that, right? Constant. Got to get on top of that. All right, so where are we at? We're at 1/2 the hour, so I'm going to zip through the around the blogosphere. I'm not going to go through each of these, but let's just read through them, see which ones look like super interesting for the group, and then we'll go on. So, sorry, one of the things we did last week was our first Panda Talk. If you guys didn't see it, it's on YouTube, and so you can go check it out there. I gave the first Panda Talk, and the Panda Talk is pretty much our version of TED Talk, but just techifying it, right? Like, it's very tech-centric, and it's about SharePoint usually, but they are meant to be talks around, I guess, more SharePoint as a product specific, as opposed to Bamboo Solutions products, right? So we're not trying to bring Bamboo's products into any of these Panda Talks. They really are just kind of something around the SharePoint space. And so mine was around why SharePoint's such a good fit for project management. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, go check it out. It's on YouTube, like I said. Just go to the Bamboo Solutions page and you should see it right there. What else we got here? An overview of compliance features in SharePoint and Office 365, SharePoint Maven. Oh, it's a good post there. Let's go check that out. What are we talking about? What are the major compliance areas? So we've got content control and brief description of each. Okay, so we got data retention, records management, DLP, data loss prevention, and e-discovery. Goes into a little bit of the details around each of those here, and I guess how SharePoint's going to meet those requirements or compliance needs. So this is how compliance works with classic SharePoint: data retention, records management, e-discovery. So how compliance works in modern SharePoint. Let's see what he's saying. One major difference is that most classic SharePoint compliance features were not centralized, meaning you had to set them many features locally at a site collection level. With the flat information architecture that we now have using modern compliance is configured at a tenant level, which is pretty good. Then in turn, tenant level policies and settings can be applied to sites, also known as site collections in the classic SharePoint, as well as OneDrive and other areas. Take a look at where such settings are configured in modern SharePoint. So if you try to familiarize yourself with the compliance in SharePoint in 365, you'll need to get friendly with the Security and Compliance Center, which is a really nifty tool. So if you go over to your admin link there, if you're an admin, you've got a Security and Compliance link. You hit that up, and then this is where specific compliance areas, he says, that are covered can be accessed from as depicted in this image. So you've got your data retention area, which is classifications. You've got your DLP area, data loss prevention. You've got the records management section, your data retention, called data governance there in your navigation, and some e-discovery. Voila, good post there, because that's definitely coming up more and more, especially as we talk more and more about, attacks happening there in the 365 or the Microsoft space. Security and compliance, it's a thing, right? It's a thing that we're all going to have to be at some level, not necessarily experts, but very up to speed on. How to rename a modern SharePoint site URL in Office 365. Been doing a lot of that lately. So good article there to get you spun up on that. 4 top-notch teamwork tips for Microsoft Teams. Good tips there. I'm sure they're strong reasons for using Teams or ways to improve your use of Teams. CSS animations and list view formatting. Let's check that out. Definitely going to be developer-centric here, but come on. Let's see here. So they take a look at how to add animations to items displayed in a SharePoint list using view formatting. So if you're not familiar with view formatting, you can write some JSON and change how list data is presented. So he explains it in an article. Oh, this is an article by Microsoft, actually, if you're interested in understanding what view formatting is. But as he describes it, it provides a great way and an easy way to customize how items can be displayed in the list view. So if you haven't had a chance to look into it, do have a read. He says, watch this video by Chris Kent. Yep. So if you're not on those dev PNP calls and you're interested, go to dev.office.com, get signed up for those PNP calls, because Chris Kent and others do a great job on there of demonstrating a lot of these capabilities that are rolling out for SharePoint, specifically SharePoint Online. So get in there and get some of that. Here's a bunch of brilliant samples, he says, from the community, but they're using Animate CSS to do this. So what do we got here? He's formatting the current view. So then he adds his JSON, combines the view formatting and Animate CSS. So how does he do that? What we'll do is place the animate CSS library on the page, which has the view formatting. We'll make use of the SPFX application customizer to place render the animate CSS library. Okay. So we add the application customizer, reload, and done. So this was an example of that animation happening there against list data using view formatting. Cool stuff. Technical post if you're into that kind of thing, but nice use case there. It's something for you to copy in your own way if you're interested. So how often do you scan your SharePoint applications for vulnerabilities? Probably not very often, right? Nice redirect there. Read further on Rencore. Okay, passing up. SharePoint list formatting tabs. See what this is. He's a huge fan of SharePoint list formatting capabilities. It allows non-developers to easily transform their SharePoint list to make them more useful and visually appealing. To get an idea, he says, of some of the things you can do with SharePoint list formatting, check out his other blog post. He's got a GitHub repo there. While there's a lot you can do with list formatting, it does have its limitations. He says you can have clickable actions in list formatting. However, you are only allowed to open a hyperlink, open the edit item panel, or execute a flow. Currently, there's no way to execute a JavaScript on-click event. So he did a very simple test, he says, to see if he could make JavaScript work with SharePoint list formatting. And the easiest example he could think of was an interactive tabbed layout. So it could be useful for SharePoint for lists with a lot of data, right? The first problem to solve is how to get the JavaScript on there. One idea would be to create a SharePoint framework extension that adds JavaScript. Hugo, he had a great blog post, he says, around where he described how to create an SPFX extension to inject CSS. So he said this could be revised to inject JavaScript into the page as well. However, in his initial testing, it seemed like overkill. So modern script editor to the rescue. So let's see here. Yeah, somebody had created a new modern version of the script editor, and so he wanted to leverage that. So he did that. So now he has a way to inject JavaScript in a modern page. The next piece of the puzzle was to write the JavaScript for the clickable tabs. I won't bore you with the details of the JavaScript. It's actually very simple. For the first version, it's hard-coded to accommodate for 3 tabs. Now the JavaScript's squared away, all you have to do is create the list formatting. So again, he's got a link here to get to that JSON if you're interested in copying this solution. If you don't care about the details about the formatting, just skip. Putting it all together. All right, so click edit script, paste in the JavaScript code you copied above, save your page, and now have a clickable tab. See? Interesting. Solution there for you. Neat stuff what people are out there experimenting with and creating right now in the SharePoint SPFX extension world, right? Like, it's just so wide open at the moment. And it always will be at this rate, right? Because we're allowing developers to write their own solutions that integrate with SharePoint so standards like, right? That open source, bringing in the toolchain you already understand and like, and then being able to write those solutions and then put them into SharePoint. It's so cool. What else? Microsoft Flow handling file locks in SharePoint. Video Azure CI/CD pipeline with SP Framework. I think we've looked at one of those already. I'm going to skip that. How to hide app waffles for SharePoint 2019. I know this has come up. People don't like the app waffle, they call it now. It used to be like the app launcher, I thought. So how do you do it? You got to write an SPFX control. So how do you... So one of the questions I have right now is how do you deploy something globally? How can you deploy an SPFX solution that just attaches itself to every page load in your entire tenant? Is that possible? Is it possible to automate the deployment of that solution to each site collection? Can you fetch site collections, iterate over them, and then deploy something that way? That's something I'm trying to research right now. Aborting your fetch requests in your SharePoint framework extensions during navigation events. Okay. Power up SharePoint with Yammer. Microsoft Teams and SharePoint site architecture explained, and then fix the entity container name. Just must be unique EF error in SharePoint. Actually, let's check this out. This is a good consultant bit of information here. Microsoft Teams and SharePoint site architecture explained. Or is this from AvePoint? So flat architecture and increased administrative visibility. Microsoft recommends that we restrict the use of subsites in our architecture. To read a great post on modern architecture, check out this one. There's a link there. If you need a site, it's better to think site collection rather than subsite. Below is a very simplified example of what we're talking about. Every site is its own top-level site or site collection. Yep. Everyone kind of goes, what? At first. Not a bad thing. It's actually useful because it now allows us to see what we're working with within the environment. Also, the tangled knots of granular permissions that tend to mess up our deeper site collections are now a thing of the past, hopefully. So when a new site's needed, they're saying with a specific set of permissions, rather than creating a subsite, breaking the inheritance of permissions, new site collection is created and we have fresh new permissions to work with. Choose a site template. The COM site template is designed to communicate information to a particular audience. Yep. Team sites are and always have been the site template of choice for our collaboration sites. They hold department private data. What else? Let's not forget the hubs. Hub sites are used to bring context and coherent navigation to our flat architecture. We can hubify our corporate home and join department sites to it. Teams for collaboration. Now that we've touched on COM sites and team sites and hubs, let's get to the good stuff. Teams. Yep, so we all know it's sort of that centrally provided collaboration space, right? Trying to be the glue that binds all of these SharePoint things together and sort of a portal or browser into the organization and all the things you might do in it, right? And it's also where, like I said, that collaboration, that conversation occurs. So tabs for productivity, they're saying tabs transform our channels into streamlined productivity hubs. The big advantage to tabs is being able to bring the resources we need to us in Teams rather than completely context switching and going out to another browser application. Yep. But that's site. So as mentioned at the start of the post, the whole situation with new teams creating a whole other team site can feel confusing and redundant. But it needn't be. So if we already have a modern team site full of important content, we can simply attach our new team to that. We just have to groupify it first. The only difference with the Microsoft Teams connected team site is that there are going to be folders in the documents library for the organization of Teams files, one per channel. You can create views in this library, so you can sort through content without the annoyance of folders, but do not delete those folders. Use that library as your Microsoft Teams file share. Let's see what else they say in here. Let's get a view of the big picture. COM sites for our company public sites that hold information that everyone in the organization should have access to. Team sites for department private content. Hubified sites as needed to connect sites that have similar scope spread across multiple sites. And then teams for enhanced collaboration with teams, departments, and groups. Yep. Let's see what this image got on here. Can I zoom in on that? A little blurry zoomed in, but yeah, I can't really read that. I'm sure you guys can't either. So with Microsoft encouraging us, they're saying to flatten our architecture and create new sites for content rather than subsites, we're in a position to build more modularly than in years past. So one site per purpose equals the building blocks of content that can be stacked and restacked as needed without the need for migration tools. So anyways, good post there from AvePoint on that sort of modern architecture, if you will. All right, let's finish this thing up. We got some work to do today, don't we? We gotta get off this call or this stream. So SharePoint events that are coming up. If you haven't been to SharePoint Saturdays, which you can see that the schedule is completely packed full of them, man, you gotta go. In fact, there's one going on this weekend in Richmond, since we're in the Washington, D.C. area. Had some interest in trying to get down there for the Richmond one. Don't know if we're going to make it, but you should go if you've never been. So anyways, a bunch of those SharePoint Saturdays coming up. Helsinki, Los Angeles, Richmond, Boston, Ottawa, Cincinnati, Denver, Ensenada, Brussels, Kansas City, Sydney, Calgary. How do you even say that? Ahmedabad? Leicester? Don't even know. Twin Cities, Lisbon, Bangalore, Munich, and that's it. Okay. So on top of all the SharePoint Saturdays coming up, maybe in your area, which you should get plugged into, there's something here for M365. Let's see what that is. You got M365 Sydney. It's for administrators, end users, architects, developers, and other professionals that work with Microsoft 365 technologies. So the 11th SPS Events Sydney event. That means, but anyways, if you're in the Sydney area, boom, big event coming up there. What else we got going on? We got the European SharePoint Conference coming up in Prague, December 2nd through the 5th. SharePoint Fest in Chicago, December 9th through the 13th. SP TechCon in San Fran, February 18th through the 21st. There's a bunch of stuff going on, man. It's end of year, right? It's end of year time to get all the events in, get ready for the beginning of the year, right? And we're only in September, so might be a little jump in the gun there, but you know. I guess government fiscal wise, yeah, here we are at the end of the year. All right, guys, that's all I got today, man. Thanks for jumping on and listening to the SharePoint Weekly Newsletter Roundup. I really appreciate it. We are doing, just put out the schedule actually for next month's webinars. So we'll be doing Wednesday live streams for prepping those webinars. What else we got? So yeah, we'll prep the webinars. We'll stream the webinar the Thursday after our Wednesday streams, and then every Friday we'll be online doing this thing right here, the SharePoint stuff, the news. So anyways, see you guys next week. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for jumping on. Enjoy.